Hey, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. Today is the big reveal concerning the numbers, so you'll want to stick around for that. Okay, so if you followed this at all, you know that we've raised 40 birds in Jeff Lawton's chicken tractor on steroids. Meat birds, that is. It's never been done before, at least not to my knowledge. So this was a giant experiment that, frankly, I've been wanting to do for well over 5 years. But we finally got it done, and I couldn't be more pleased about it. So, with that said, you'll want to stick around, folks. I'm not going to go crazy with the numbers, although I could. I just want to break down the dollars and cents, and let's talk about whether or not this whole thing was worth it. Okay, we're going to talk about dollars and cents here, and whether or not this whole thing makes sense. But before I get into that, I want to say right off the bat, in this chicken tractor on steroid system, if you have no experience in raising meat birds, I wouldn't start this way. This isn't exactly the best place in the world to start if you're a novice at this. But if you have raised a few flocks and you feel comfortable with everything about how chickens are, you might want to go ahead and give it a shot. So, right off the bat, the things I would have done, I could have made this process easier, but not having done this before, at least not this method, and having to invent some things along the way, I realize now with the benefit of hindsight that I could have done this way more efficiently, and in the next batches, we will. We're only going to get better from here. So let's talk about the numbers. Okay, we want to talk about the input costs, and all these are, I can go into much greater detail, but there's really no sense in it. So first off, the birds, $3.20 a piece. So the feed, $30 a bag. We got nothing fancy, just stuff off the shelf at Tractor Supply. It was the organic feed. And really the number was somewhere around $28.99 a bag, but we'll just round everything up. In fact, I want to point out that all these numbers, and I'll probably say it a number of times before this is over, all these numbers do not favor this process. And I'll tell you why here in a while. Hopefully I remember to. So let's start off with the cost. We got $3.20 a piece. We got 40 of them. That's $128, right? So $30 a bag. We bought 4 bags, although I will say that I only used 3 1/4 bags. But so what? I mean, I bought 4, so that's part of the cost, right? So we add those two numbers up, 128 and 120. We come up initial cost of $248. This number right here. Okay, so I could pad it a little bit. I really don't feel I need to at this point. I think 248 is a pretty square figure. So from there, let's talk about what we did. Now, this is a labor-intensive process, and I'm going to talk about labor dollars here in a little bit, but I'll save it toward the end for the people that are thinking, man, I'm sick and tired of this egghead talking about this sort of thing. I just want to know dollars and cents. Now, let me just point this out, that I think I could write a pretty impressive list of reasons why it's not necessary to consider your man hours or female hours or your work hours when you're producing this meat to be consumed on the farm. And I understand the arguments otherwise, but I personally, like I said, I won't go into it now, but I think I can make a pretty compelling case as to why those numbers aren't important, but we'll factor them in at the end anyway. Okay, so when we got it all done, when I say finished weight here, I'm talking about the heads removed, the guts are removed, the legs are removed, feathers, you know. So basically you're adding, you got a full bird that you would find in, let's say, a store. I'm going with three pounds here, although I couldn't actually weigh them because in this butchering process, I leave the guts in there, right? So I don't necessarily have the means to do that. But having done this numerous times before, and Michelle agrees that these birds were every bit 3.5 to 4 pounds easily in this process. In fact, as a little side note, I can honestly say that in this process, our birds at 11 weeks weighed more than we raised them on conventional feed in 12 weeks. And I got a whole lot of hypotheses for how that could possibly be the case. Anyway, we're going to go with a very, very, very conservative number, and I'm calling that 3 pounds per bird. So times 40 birds, we got 120 pounds. And I'm cheating myself by saying that, but there's reasons for it. Okay, so we get into that. We realize that also, if we do the math on that, 248 divided by 120, that comes out to $2.06 a pound per bird. Folks, that alone is pretty darn impressive, if you ask me. I mean, if you do it using feed the whole way from start to finish, you're going to be lucky to get 5 pounds a bird in most cases. So, but in this process, remember, after 5 weeks, they went completely off of store-bought food. Go back and watch the previous videos. They went completely off of store-bought food, and they were eating exclusively food scraps and biota from the compost piles. So that's a huge savings there, obviously, at $2.06 a pound. But to compare apples and apples, remember, in this system, the byproduct of doing this chicken tractor on steroids system is you leave the compost element behind. It is a byproduct of just good management within this system. So we've produced, and then we're still in the process of producing. Remember, some of the carcass from these animals went into these compost piles. So when the numbers are all said and done, we got 7 cubic yards of compost. Now, if you were to go to any place in town, in fact, all these beds I'm in right here, to get really, really good compost, we paid $60 a cubic yard for that compost. And frankly, folks, not any disrespect to the people we bought it from, the compost we produce through this system is by far a much better quality, much more active with life, the whole 9 yards. So could we charge more than that? Possibly. But we're going to say we'll just charge $60 a square yard, just like we were charged for the stuff you see me standing around right now. So 7 yards times 60, we got $420. So we saved, by doing this system. If you have a permaculture farm, you need to always, in some capacity or another, be creating compost. So I guess a critical question to ask at this point is, should you include that in the numbers? I say absolutely. I mean, already we're doing quite well at $2 a pound, but really, what do we come down to if we factor in all of the compost that A, I didn't have to buy, or B, if I did buy, or if I sold it, this is what I get for it. So $420. So it seems fair to subtract the 248 initial cost from that 420. Folks, that leaves me, okay, you can cross out this number right here. You can cross out, I didn't pay anything for this chicken. If you really add all of the components of this entire system together, not only did I not pay a single dime for this system, for this meat, if you add the numbers, I'm $172 ahead. Is that fair? I'll leave that up. I'll leave that for you to decide. But in my world, I think that's absolutely fair. So this process, this whole chicken tractor on steroids process, in fairness, is it's much more labor intense. How much? Okay, I did the math on those numbers. And I even cheated the numbers in a way that did not favor me. But essentially, we came down with 39 hours from the time they were in the brooder, and including the 3 hours it took to process. And like I said, that number's a little heavy. It's probably closer to 36, but we'll say 39 hours from start to finish, flipping the compost, moving the birds, the whole 9 yards, 39 hours, let's call it that. And if you paid yourself $20 an hour, you can do all the math, subtract whatever. I've done the math, and frankly, I ran out of cardboard to put it on. But you would have to sell, if you were to sell this chicken in the parts and pieces that we cut it up in, you would have to sell this chicken at right about $5 a pound in order to make up for everything. And that's paying yourself $20 an hour. Now, could you get more than $5 a pound? Okay, the cheapest cut are the quarters. And I checked the local high-end butcher shop that we have near Asheville, and they're charging $5 a pound for the quarters. And if I remember correctly, they were charging $11 a pound for ground chicken and $9 a pound for boneless, skinless breast. And I could make an argument that the quality of our chicken done in these small batches is, probably better. in every metric possible. At least I think I can make a pretty compelling case for that. So could you get $5 a pound for this? Almost certainly. And folks, think about it. When you sell a chicken whole, go to your grocery store. When you buy a chicken whole, you're paying, let's say, whatever that price is. But go and, because I've done it, go and add up the parts and pieces. So if you were to buy boneless, skinless breasts, 2 of them, 2 thighs, 2 legs, and 2 wings, you will have paid 30% more for that bird than if you did buying it whole. So by butchering it this way and selling it off in parts and pieces, are you money ahead? Somebody out there might want to go find out. But at the end of the day, if you're keeping it on the farm, as we are with this batch, like I said, at the end of the day, not only did I get free meat out of the deal, got a good workout in turning the compost piles, I'm also $172 ahead in compost that I didn't have to buy. So if you ask me, this is it's a sublime, elegant, efficient system. And I think from here on out, maybe in the future, I'll discuss the reasons why. I think from here on out, every bird we produce for meat on this farm will be done in this way. And in fact, some of the areas where I could do better is, number one, I could have gotten these birds, instead of having them out in 5 weeks, I could have conceivably had them out in 3. Now, they wouldn't have been producing compost, but they would have been eating less feed. So that's one savings. Another way I could increase these numbers, like I said, we got 7 yards of compost out of these guys. I now realize that in the last 4, maybe 3 weeks, these birds were easily turning 1.5 yards. I could have had them doing 2 with no difference. So we could have pushed this number, instead of 7 yards, I could have gotten it up to at least 10. I could have even added more meat to these birds. Like I said, this 3 pounds per bird is extremely low. I could have let these birds go for 12 weeks and had even more weight on them with different techniques that I've learned along the way, that with the benefit of hindsight, I would now use. So in the end, I'm using numbers that don't at all favor us. But at the end of the day, with a little bit of elbow grease, and frankly, if you're not willing to put in the work, this system isn't going to work for you. So at the end of the day, I can't think of a better way, a more efficient way in producing your meat on the farm. So I hope it helps. So for all of you eggheads out there that are concerned about the dollars and cents, there you have it. For everybody else, good luck. I hope somebody else gives it a shot out there. I'll keep doing it and I'll keep refining it. And as I said before, these numbers are going to get much, much better. They're pretty impressive right now. So hopefully, if it works for you, tell others about it. Tell your friends about us. Be sure to subscribe. And folks, we're doing things here that have never been done before. This has never been done before with meat birds, and frankly, I'm quite pleased with it. So until next time, this is Billy, the permaculture pimp daddy from Perma Pastures Farm. We'll see you.